Sweetheart, but never a fragile. This is the definition of Anma, a high school girl, self-reliant and as strong as ever. She works as a delivery girl during the day. In the evenings, she works at a VIP meeting hall. Being an athlete herself, she learns martial sports, with her father sparing no effort in teaching her. She's obsessed with the world of anime, including the actors, books, stories, and more. One day, there's a meeting of senior personalities who design and produce anime works. A person named Bike is rewarded for his work, but since he's older, fans tend to gather around the younger artists. A social media influencer who live streams forces an actress to go live with him. May intervenes to stop the impudence, but the man proves to be very stubborn and doesn't stop his live stream. May resorts to judo moves to manage the situation. At the end of the event, she receives a job offer from a reputable company. To secure the job, she must pass through 3 stages. The first stage involves registering online with the company and detailing her combat skills and background. The second stage tests her endurance in the field. The third and final stage requires her to pass tests and answer questions from experts. During her morning jogging exercise, she receives a message from the company confirming that she has successfully passed the second stage. The last stage remains, which is the personal interview. She goes to the company, where she answers that she eats healthy foods and performs push-ups in front of them. She successfully clears all the tests. On her way out, 2 men trail behind her and engage in conversation about her. One of them comments on how pretty she is but mentions that she also knows martial arts. He declares, "I'll prove it to you." With a sudden maneuver, he attempts to snatch the girl's bag. In an instant, she employs defensive judo moves, causing the man to fall flat on his back. She wins the argument decisively. Apologizing, the girl continues on her way to her destination. The next day, she faces the final part of the third stage, where she undergoes a rigorous round of questions from the interviewers. To her surprise, one of them is the man she had bested on the ground the previous day. She had assumed she was out of the running, but to her delight, they appreciate her exceptional skills. They utter the usual words, "We will call you once your name is shortlisted." Back at home, she feels a mix of emotions: upset, annoyed, and sad. She had been convinced the company would not choose her, given the competition from more experienced candidates. Her father suggests that perhaps she should have chosen to work as a judo trainer instead. However, as it turns out, the company is in urgent need of employees, requiring 2 more. They call her and inform her that she has been accepted. The following day, she heads to work and meets Gu, who will also be working alongside her. They exchange greetings with their new colleagues and are introduced to their boss, who explains the nature of their work, including setting deadlines for project submissions and other responsibilities. Her manager then escorts her to the artist from whom she will receive her assignments, none other than Bake himself. The man who had been present at the event is none other than Bake, one of the artists she admires the most. May is thrilled to have the opportunity to work closely with him. The director provides her with specific instructions that she must follow when artists come to hand over their work. During her visit to Bake's house, they engage in a conversation about work. Afterward, Anma plucks up the courage to express her admiration for him as an artist. She also comments on his latest work and hopes he reads her feedback. However, her manager reveals that his recent work received negative feedback, with many people commenting unfavorably. This revelation leaves Anma feeling guilty, fearing that her comments may have contributed to his decision to withdraw his work from the company. And indeed, that's precisely what happened. The comments deeply affected him, leading him to contemplate retirement. Overcome with remorse, Anma, along with her colleagues, revisits Bak to convince him that people's opinions are just that, opinions. This marks her first task in her new role. Now, let's turn our attention to Gu. His first client happens to be a stunning artist. However, when he visits her, She asks him to perform some household tasks instead, like fixing the chandelier bowls and restocking the bathroom's rolls of tissues. Despite these unexpected chores, Gu takes them on willingly. Meanwhile, at Anma's party, they are still stationed at Bak's house. A few days later, Bak finally allows them in, revealing the depth of his frustration over the negative comments he received. Anma reassures him in a straightforward manner, emphasizing that there is no issue with his skill and talent at all. It's a matter of perception. Bak approaches his art from a different angle than the one the viewer observes. Perhaps he sits with a hunched back, and this unique perspective contributes to his drawings. Now they seek a solution to help him overcome the challenges he faces. Many of his students come forward to offer their assistance, and he eventually agrees, summoning the courage to complete his work. The team celebrates their triumph, with Gu indulging in a bit too much to drink, leading to him fainting. Anma takes Gu to her house, where her family becomes curious about the unconscious guest. She explains that he's her colleague and assures them that he'll leave when he wakes up in the morning. However, when her father sees Gu, he becomes more inquisitive. He wakes Gu up and questions him about who he is and why he's sleeping there. Gu responds that he doesn't know what has happened and has no idea where he is at the moment. Despite efforts from Anma's mother and sister to calm the situation, it feels as if Gu is facing a relentless ogre who doesn't see, speak, or hear but strikes hard. He yearns to escape from this uncomfortable situation. The following day, Anma apologizes to Gu, who inquires why she brought him home. She explains that she couldn't face her father, and she avoids receiving a scolding from her father. They commute to their workplace by train, and upon arriving at the office, they notice a festive atmosphere. This enthusiasm is a result of the artist Bak's work, which has garnered over 1 million views in just a couple of days. Zhang hints that they will soon receive another project from an artist, indicating that the administration has high expectations for their team. A colleague named Young makes a sarcastic comment, insinuating that Gu is essentially working for the artist. Gu chooses not to dignify the remark with a response. He later encounters Anma and confides in her that he dislikes the nature of their work and is contemplating resignation. He's aware that his contract won't be renewed after a year, but Anma assures him that her focus is on both of them overcoming the challenges they face. At work, Anma's boss introduces her to her new client, Na Gang. Excitedly, she recognizes him as the creator of the Black Eagles and expresses her admiration for his work. Na Gang acknowledges her enthusiasm, but reveals that he's dealing with some personal issues regarding his wife. He requests Anma to let him submit the complete work within the next 2 to 3 days. As for Gu, his client plans to submit her work as soon as possible, so he needs to stay on top of it. Anma sends Na Gang a reminder email about the submission date, but he appears absorbed in his own work and doesn't respond to her message. Pom contacts Gu Jun and invites him to her home, as she often does. True to her routine, she asks him to help with some household chores. Gu Jun inquires about the reason for her invitation, to which she admits that she feels lonely and his visits improve her mood. After a pleasant conversation, Gu Jun expresses his intention to leave, and Pom accompanies him to the door. However, just before he departs, she asks him to take out the trash. Meanwhile, Anma faces a pressing deadline with Na Gang. Her boss adds pressure, emphasizing that if they don't receive the drawings by 11 o'clock at night, they could face significant trouble and potential losses. In this dire situation, she must visit Na Gang's home. Upon her arrival, Anma finds Na Gang physically and mentally drained. When she inquires about the drawings, he explains that he can't focus at the moment due to his wife running away from home. However, Anma is determined to obtain the drawings, so she strikes a deal with him. He agrees to complete the drawings, and in return, she promises to help him search for his missing wife. He sent her the last video he has of his wife. Together with her sister, Ma embarks on a mission to find Na Gang's wife. They locate her near a sushi restaurant that Ma is familiar with, but upon entering, they don't find her there. Instead, they witness two men harassing her on the street. Leveraging her martial arts skills, Ma quickly dispatches the two aggressors. Subsequently, the two women sit down and engage in conversation, during which Ki-yu expresses her admiration for Ma's bravery. Amid their discussion, Ma receives a call from Gang, who informed her that the drawings are ready and expresses hope that she has fulfilled her part of the deal. She assures Na Gang that there's no need to worry because she has the situation well in hand. She informs him that she'll be heading over to collect the drawings shortly and promises that, in return, he will be reunited with his missing wife. Another successful negotiation. The following day, she has a meeting with Seok-ji, her boss at work. He praises her courage and credits her unwavering determination for ensuring they receive the drawings on time. However, when they examine the comments from their followers, it becomes evident that Na Gang's hastily drawn and inattentive work has disappointed many fans, tarnishing a once-beloved story. In an attempt to salvage the situation, Ma contacts Na Gang, urging him to draw for the story again. His response is dismissive, asserting that it's not her domain or expertise. Ma then updates her boss, who shifts blame onto her, as if she hadn't been the model employee just a short while ago. Ma possesses the art of persuasion and an unyielding drive to achieve her goals. She relentlessly pursues Na Gang, almost to the point of harassment, until he finally agrees to listen to what she has to say. Despite his initial refusals, she remains resolute, unwavering in her pursuit. Through her persuasive skills and determination, she ultimately convinces him to agree to draw once more, a testament to the soft skills that initially landed her the job at the company. Ma heads to the company with the determination not to leave until she receives an email containing the drawings. She waits patiently, enduring a long night, and by morning, she finds that Na Gang has indeed sent her the drawings, and they are exceptionally beautiful, just as he had promised. Her boss is left bewildered by the sudden transformation and wonders what exactly transpired between yesterday and today. He invites Ma to join him for lunch. During her metro ride, Ma overhears people discussing the drawings, and she's over the moon with excitement. Upon returning home, she discovers her sister engaged in a conversation about the same drawings. In a company meeting, the boss decides to search for new and young talents to align with the reader's preferences and current trends. He intends to entrust the recruitment process to the producers and artists, including Buck and Palm, who readily agree. Gu visits Palm, who informs him that she needs some time to think. The company creates a pool of various types of artists, including Shinda, an aspiring young artist who works as a nurse and enjoys creating stories, and Lana, whose artistic talents are commendable despite her mother's lack of belief in such pursuits. The day arrives when Seok-ji, the director, gathers the competitors and explains that each of them must craft a story along with its accompanying drawings. Those who excel, creating the most compelling story and artwork, will earn a place in the company. The contestants dive into the challenge, dedicating themselves to writing their stories and creating their drawings. Among the judges are the company's top artists, including Buck and Palm. After the participants complete their submissions on paper, the personal interviews commence, one applicant at a time. When Gu Seul steps up for her interview, her answers are articulate, and her personality shines with charisma. Her drawings are impressive, ticking all the right boxes. She quickly ascends to the ranks of excellence in the selection process. Next in line is Shin, who appears apprehensive, and doubts surround his potential. Unfortunately, most individuals dismiss him, except for Budik, who detects something intriguing in Shin's story, capturing his interest and attention. Bak decides to take Shin under his wing as his assistant, recognizing the untapped potential within him. On his way out, two young men from the company attempt to bully Shin, but On-ma intervenes, defending him and even striking one of the bullies, who exaggerates his reactions. The other man records the incident and uploads it to the internet, where the video quickly goes viral, accompanied by comments critical of the company for failing to protect its employees from assault. In light of this situation, On-ma decides to apologize to the young man she hit, but Gu stops her and reveals that it was all a staged act. He had filmed a scene to prove his point, and together, they successfully win the case to clear the company's name. Back at the company, each employee selects an intern to work with. On-ma chooses Gu-sul. Gu continues to partner with Palm, and Beck, as previously mentioned, takes Shin under his wing. The training process commences, with Beck introducing Shin to his work team and teaching him the basics, while On-ma patiently guides Gu-sul, pointing out her mistakes and helping her improve. When On-ma checks on Shin's progress, she discovers that he has a problem distinguishing between faces, resulting in drawings that all look similar. She reassures him that she will help him overcome this challenge. In a fun twist, they dress up in company attire and judo formal clothing, judgy, and take photos together. Meanwhile, Gu-sul receives a call from Dong, who offers to train her. She faces a choice, whether to continue working with On-ma or to accept Dong's offer. Seeking guidance, Gu-sul shares her drawings with Kwon, hoping for his instructions to help her edit and improve her work. However, it becomes evident that Kwon is not entirely present in the moment. He offers some encouragement for her to continue with her drawings and show him her progress from time to time before abruptly leaving. Meanwhile, at On-ma's home, her father expresses his confusion about her career choices. Her mother advises him, explaining that their children don't have to follow the same path as him, and they have made their own choices in life. She emphasizes that what On-ma is doing is a wonderful job, highlighting her employment with a prestigious company. Her father appears to be deep in thought, possibly reconsidering his insistence and contemplating a change of heart. In a moment of reconciliation and understanding, Gu-sul and On-ma meet for coffee. Gu-sul expresses her gratitude to On-ma for her patience and her effective communication style. She appreciates that On-ma did not hold a grudge against her for choosing Kwon over her. Gu-sul responds to On-ma, explaining that she had to make sacrifices in her life to make things easier, especially considering her work commitments. Just then, Kwon calls Gu-sul to provide feedback on her drawings. While he compliments the overall quality, he suggests changing the hair color of a specific character. Gu-sul, feeling the pressure of her tight deadline, pushes back, explaining that altering the character's hair color would necessitate changing the entire setting, something she doesn't have the time for. Kwon insists that he has shared his opinion, and Gu-sul must now deliver the drawings as is. In this moment, Gu-sul begins to realize the extent of the mistake she made in choosing Kwon over On-ma. On-ma decides to meet with Kwon privately and expresses her concern about the pressure he's putting on Gu-sul. She points out that Gu-sul can't change her personality so quickly, and what he's doing is not right. However, Kwon responds defensively, telling On-ma that she doesn't understand and should not interfere in his work. Meanwhile, On-ma struggles to find a solution to Gu-sul's problem, feeling emotionally connected to the young girl. In the case of Shin and his assistant, Shin notices something exceptional about his drawings. He finds them beautiful, along with the story. This leads to a thoughtful dialogue between the two, with the assistant suggesting that Shin should hire him in the future when he becomes famous. For some undisclosed reason, Shin lacks confidence in his abilities and can't see a future in this field. Ironically, Shin imparts a valuable life lesson about self-esteem and finding one's path. As Gu-sul grapples with the immense pressure to meet her tight deadline, On-ma becomes concerned about her well-being, as she hasn't heard from her for several days. When On-ma checks on Gu-sul's health, her mother informs her that she hasn't left her room for days. On-ma knocks on her door, and upon entering, discovers her unconscious at her working desk. She immediately rushes her to the hospital for a thorough medical examination and assessment. In the hospital, as Gu Seul regains consciousness, her immediate concern is submitting the drawings before the looming deadline. Mei reassures her, emphasizing that her health takes precedence and promising to speak with Kwon about postponing the delivery date. Determined to address the situation, Mei decides to complain against Kwon. She requests a meeting to discuss the matter with her boss, Seok-jae. Mei highlights how Gu Seul has been working tirelessly, producing quality drawings, but Kwon has been demanding the impossible from her. Now, the girl is in the hospital due to the pressure. Her boss attempts to defuse the situation, assuring them that he has everything under control. Later, in a cafe, Seok-jae explains the background of Kwon to Mei and Gu. He reveals that during the company's early stages, there were 3 key figures: himself, Kwon, and Jang. Each of them was paired with an artist to work with. At the time, Kwon was particularly zealous and actively engaged in his work. However, a pivotal moment arrived when the company's owner expressed dissatisfaction, stating that they were not performing up to par and expressing a desire to terminate their contracts. Kwon pleaded with the owner, but his efforts were in vain. Kwon then confided in the artist he was collaborating with, sharing the dire situation. In response, the artist reacted cruelly, belittling Kwon as useless and a fool who served no purpose to anyone. Kwon endured humiliation in the process. Kwon, after facing rejection and humiliation, sought comfort from his wife, only to be left to grapple with his miseries alone. Their journey felt like navigating through the neck of a bottle, with the hope of finding light at the end of the tunnel. Their turning point came when one of the drawings they were collaborating on achieved a high number of views. From that moment onward, their fortunes began to change. Kwon learned his lesson and toughened his skin, realizing that he couldn't be held solely responsible for their previous setback. Eventually, the owner decided to reinstate them, and it turned out to be a win-win situation for everyone involved. Gu Seul also learned a valuable lesson through her experiences. She shares her work with Kwon, who appears willing to provide some input, perhaps suggesting minor changes. However, she asserts her ownership of her work, stating that she won't accept any alterations unless she deems them reasonable. If he has feedback, he can only communicate it through email. This demonstrates the power of asserting one's agency, particularly for women. As for Shin, he shows his drawings to his assistant, who offers suggestions for modifications. Shin's assistant points out that the elements in the drawings appear quite small. Shin explains that the story necessitates a broader perspective, which is why he sketches them in this size. The assistant comprehends Shin's creative process and connects with his thinking, seeking synergy in their collaboration. At Bak's house, they are invited to share a meal, and everyone engages in conversation. However, Shin remains lost in his thoughts. His troubled past involves harsh treatment from his mother, including severe punishment, and even being physically restrained. These experiences have deeply affected his self-esteem. Bak's wife tries to comfort him with a gentle pat on the shoulder, but Shin interprets it differently and abruptly leaves the table. His assistant follows him and inquires about what's troubling him, but Shin finds it difficult to express the extent of the suppression he endured during his formative years. Later that night, Shin's assistant becomes engrossed in his work, dedicating himself to sketching and drawing. He receives a phone call from his mother, who continues to deride his abilities as she usually does. Frustrated and seeking guidance, Shin's assistant contacts Mei and requests a meeting the following day. When they meet, Mei greets him with her usual cheerful demeanor. He shows her his drawing, which she finds to be exceptionally beautiful. However, when she learns the story's underlying concept, she realizes that he struggled to convey the intended message. Feeling like a failure who ventured into the wrong field, he expresses his sense of not being accepted anywhere. Upon parting ways, Mei gifts him her lucky medal, which her father gave her, as a symbol of support and encouragement. She explains how it had helped her overcome numerous challenges and bring her luck. She hopes that the medal will similarly bring luck to him, opening up new opportunities. Anme attends a company meeting where a new project is introduced. The project involves uploading a new story from the works of emerging talents each day, starting the following week. She mentally prepares Shin for his upcoming story, emphasizing the need for focused and diligent work, as his first story is scheduled for upload next week. Shin is deeply grateful for his assistant's support and guidance. One of Shin's assistants feels a pang of jealousy, realizing that he has been working on his own drawings for years without achieving the same level of success that Shin has attained in just a few days. However, upon seeing Shin's drawings and recognizing their beauty and the compelling story they tell, he becomes even more frustrated with himself, questioning why he has not found success where others have. The following day, Shin discovers his laptop is malfunctioning, and his drawings have mysteriously disappeared. Shin's frustration and suspicion lead to a quarrel with one of the assistants. Buck, hearing the commotion, rushes to investigate and quickly understands the situation. Shin contacts Anme, expressing his despair and the belief that his work has been rendered futile. He feels unable to participate in any competition. Anme offers reassurance and informs him that he had emailed her his drawings, which she will send back to him. This means he can resume his work from where he left off, rather than starting from scratch. Shin glimpses a ray of hope. Buck takes the opportunity to have a conversation with the assistant who destroyed Shin's work. He advises him against comparing himself to others, emphasizing that such comparisons can lead to failure. He highlights the unique abilities that each individual possesses and the mistake the assistant made in succumbing to anger. The assistant expresses regret, acknowledging his error and revealing his intention to leave the field. He expresses gratitude for the valuable lessons learned during his 10 years of service with Buck. As he prepares to leave, Anme arrives for a visit. She sits down with the assistant and offers him some drawings and guidelines, explaining that they may still be beneficial. However, he firmly informs her that he has decided to exit the field. He also takes responsibility for destroying Shin's laptop and sabotaging his work, expressing deep remorse for his actions. Anme is saddened but unable to change his mind. He proceeds to bid farewell to Buck, Shin, and the rest of the team. He apologizes to Shin, who appears shocked and saddened, unsure of how to respond. As he leaves, Shin follows him, suggesting that he should not give up on his dreams and should continue pursuing them, as he never knows when he might achieve them. However, the assistant insists that he has made his final decision and believes it's better for him to work with his family and make them happy. He leaves Shin his own laptop as a parting gift, a poignant gesture symbolizing his remorse. Meanwhile, Gang is in a business meeting with a woman who is negotiating with him to join their company, offering to pay him double what he currently earns. Gang mentions the one obstacle to this decision: his involvement with the Black Eagle series. Leaving it would result in significant financial losses for the company, which earns $10 million from his contributions. Anme and her boss, Seok-ji, witness Gang's meeting with the woman offering him a job. Seok-ji decides to have an open conversation with Gang about the situation. He informs Gang that he is aware of the offer and asks him to consider the potential consequences for the people who would lose their jobs if he were to accept the other company's offer. Many individuals depend on their current income. Gang responds that he hasn't made a decision yet, but there is a significant chance that he may accept the offer. One night, as Gang begins sketching to start working with the new company, his wife expresses her desire to go out. He leaves his work unfinished and accompanies her. While she tries on some clothes, he notices the female protagonist from the Black Eagle series walking in front of him. This unexpected encounter adds an intriguing twist to the story. Gang's encounter with the imaginary character from the Black Eagle series leaves him seemingly obsessed or deeply attached to his own creation. He follows the character, who ultimately disappears into thin air. His wife becomes irritated by his behavior and expresses jealousy, feeling that he loves his fictional creation more than her. Gang continues to see the character despite his wife's frustration. However, after some contemplation, Gang has a change of heart and returns to his former company's director, informing them that he will not be leaving after all. When questioned about his sudden change of mind, given his previous determination to leave, he reveals that he is attached to the heroine of the Black Eagles. Surprisingly, the director confesses that he also has a fondness for the character and shares that his own wife left him once. The director questions how Gang could prioritize an imaginary character over his real-life spouse. Despite these personal challenges, the company perseveres in publishing the stories of young creators and achieves notable success in its field. The story highlights the complex interplay between creativity, imagination, and personal relationships.